dissociated from my body. I was barely alive, and when that happened, it just like instant, like my body came online. And I stood up to test it out, and I didn't pass out. I actually felt really good. And I was in shock, and like just at everything that had just happened. And I think that then I came to Rick and told him. And yeah, so that was the first healing. So one thing with PoTS is that I was taking heart medication, because with heart rate jumps like that, you have to regulate it somehow. And I was on the highest dosage of, it was called Corlinor, which basically regulates your heart rate, blood pressure, all that stuff. And I was still on that medication when I got healed. And so God still, like, he couldn't fully heal me, otherwise I'd probably, you know, not be good taking all this medication. And so just a few months after that, God just said, it's time for you to go off your medication. And I was like, okay, that sounds terrifying. But, yeah, and I checked my heart rate, and it was low, just like right there. He's like, it's time. And I checked my heart rate, it was 56 beats per minute, which is extremely good, and a little bit on the low end. So I was like, okay, I'll go down to a lower dosage. And I did, and then 2 days later, it was low again. And I was like, okay, God's serious. I'm gonna call my doctor. And so I called my doctor, and the doctor's like, okay, we've never heard this happening before, but just keep monitoring it, and you can go down to the lowest dose. And I was like, okay, I'll just monitor it. And in less than 2 weeks, I went from taking the highest dosage of this heart medication to being completely off of it. Completely off of it. And yeah, that was a wild ride. But it was so funny because my doctor, who, he's like, the medical system knows of this disorder, but it's still not very well known of, so they don't really know any cures for it. It's considered an incurable disease. They've never seen anyone cured of it, actually. And so I go to the follow-up meeting with my doctor after 2 weeks, going from the highest dosage to nothing. Keep that in mind. And I go in, the nurse sees me, and she takes my heart rate. My heart rate was 68 beats per minute. Sitting down, and she's like, oh wow, that's great. I'm like, yep, I don't know what to say. She takes my blood pressure, pristine. She's like, oh, I wish that I had blood pressure like you. I was like, I never thought that I'd ever hear that. And then, so here's the real test. So she has me stand up, and I was like, okay, God, your turn to take over. And I stand up, and she takes my heart rate, and she's like, okay, 66 beats per minute. I'm like, what? It was 2 beats lower, and normally it would go from like 50 to 150. It'd be insane shifts, and it was perfect. It wasn't just perfect. It was better. It was the opposite. It was so good. And I was looking at my nurse shocked, and she's like, oh wow, that guy's weird. Like, I don't know what's up with him. And blood pressure is perfect. And then, so this whole story I've been in shock pretty much, and it's true. But I was in shock. And so my doctor comes in, and he's in shock, and he doesn't know what to say, but he's like, well, we don't know much about this disease. And he tries to like pronounce it, and I was like, yeah, good luck with that. And and he's just like, well, we like reviewed you, and it looks like you're cured. And then he just shook my hand, and he's like, congratulations. And I was like, thank you. What now? He's just like, you don't need any follow-up visits. Just have a nice life. Let me tell you, I walked out of that doctor's office, I waved at the people that like book you. I was like, bye, I'm never seeing you again. I'm never seeing you again, goodbye. I don't even know your name, bye. And it was so great. And God was just like ecstatic with me. I was like, thank you, Jesus. I got in my car and my grandpa calls me and he's like, hey, do you want to come over and say hi? And I was like, sure, I have this great story to tell. And my grandpa is the most Catholic person that you will ever meet. He's the most, I think he has the world record for the most Hail Marys ever said. It's remarkable. But he had been kind of following my healing story and he was just baffled by it. Like, what did Tice do to get healed? And so I was like, okay, God, please give me the words to say to him. And I show up. And of course, I told my grandpa this story, and he was just like, wow. And he literally said, what did you do? Like, God must really like you for whatever reason. Like, what did you do to deserve that? All that I said to him was, I did nothing. I just received. And I could see that in his face, like, okay, seed planted. And I just hugged him goodbye. I said I loved him. And I just went home, and I mean, it's just been amazing ever since. Like, I have a brand new body, so thank you.